These three skills that anybody can learn if they choose to go this path can make them millions. And I'm not kidding when I say this. There's three specific things that you need to learn, and I'm going to break them down in this video that can be applicable to anything that you do. Why? This is that hidden language and X factor that a lot of people think you have to be born with. However, it can be developed, and I'm going to cover it with you today and break it down so anybody can learn. Okay? Three qualities that you will need that you can apply to anything that will help you make a lot of money. This is for the business people, entrepreneurs, and the salespeople and everybody else, okay? Let's get into it. Now, the first thing is this, right? And I even have my phone here to give you guys the textbook definitions of some of these things. The first one is wit. You need to be able to develop wit. What is wit by definition? Mental sharpness and inventiveness, keen intelligence. Definition number two, a natural aptitude for using words and ideas in a quick and inventive way to create humor. Okay, now there's a few keys that I want to cover here, and I'm going to teach you how to develop wit, and I'm going to give you some exercises, okay? Mental sharpness and inventiveness, right? Mental sharpness. You can develop your mental sharpness by constantly engaging in these certain activities that are going to help you with this. Now, one of the easiest ways that you can become more witty in general and quicker and more keen and more like on the go is to force yourself as an individual to become better as a communicator, because most of this is going to be in the demonstration of our character, portrayal of our character, and in communication, right? So we need to put ourselves in situations where we are going to be out and about, strangers, right? Random stuff happening where you will have to, spark conversation and kind of create that momentum, create the experience, and really create that moment. And if you're engaged in doing this all the time, it's very effective. So this is why I'd recommend people from a business standpoint, go out at least 1 or 2 nights a week. Don't drink. Just go to networking events, go to meetups, right? If you have hobbies that you like, go to those as well, because this is going to put you in those social environments that's going to start to develop this, right? In addition to that, I've recommended that people go to Toastmasters, a public speaking platform that's available basically worldwide, and the fee to enter that is very cheap. Very, very cheap. And it's going to help you on having a commanding presence, working the room, and really being able to put yourself in a position where you are quick. All these things put you on the spot and put a lot of pressure on you. You want to take it to another level? Go to a booming nightclub and stand in the middle of the dance floor by yourself and make eye contact with people. You want to take it to another level again? Go do improv and stand in front of a crowd on open mic night as a comedian, like I did when you're not even a comedian, to put yourself on the spot and force you to develop this. The way that this is developed, wit, is by force. Now, some of us, when we were younger, maybe you had friends, maybe you had particular parents in your life, or aunt, uncle, brother, sister, who maybe when you were a kid helped you with this inadvertently without you knowing, so naturally you're better at it, and that's fine. That's how some people are more natural, because they did some of these things early on in their life and created that kind of habit without realizing it. But you can systematically build this up yourself, right? Mental sharpness and inventiveness. Natural aptitude for using words and ideas in a quick and inventive way to create humor. So, what is another thing you can do, right? This is a killer exercise for those of you who watch this video. I did this from a sales perspective, but it's absolutely 100% a very concrete way for you to develop your wit. One of the things that we know in sales is you need to control the frame of the conversation, and we need to make sure that we're asking questions continuously to lead us down the path, of where we want to go. With that said, one of the games that I learned early on, and I'll give you 2 versions of this, one that's beginner and one that's more advanced, is the question game. And this question game will force you to be able to respond quickly and be inventive and process quicker. And if you do this often, I swear, you're going to develop a quickness and a kind of a wittiness that is unmatched, okay? So the first version, the easy version of the question game is you sit with one person, right? I recommend you do this in groups of 2, and you ask a question. The other person has to immediately ask you another question, and you just go back and forth until somebody takes more than like 2 or 3 seconds, and then the game is over, right? You set a time limit on how long somebody has to create a question and send it back to you. And then the first person to pass that threshold loses, and you start over again, right? That's the easy way to do it, right? And it's simple. So let's say I'm in a sales situation and I'm talking about real estate. I'll use those typical questions and we'll go back and forth, right? It doesn't have to really make sense or stay too relevant, but that's the introduction to the question-based game. Now, the more advanced one is a little bit more challenging because once we do that, you are going to now originate a question. The individual is going to have to answer your question and then follow it up with another one right back to you. And then you answer the question, you follow one back up to them, and you keep going back and forth again until somebody loses. As innocent and as simple as that game sounds, I did that shit for months with a partner. And after those months, we were ninjas when it came to coming up with stuff quickly on the spot. Why? Because you're subjecting yourself to a higher amount of pressure and causing your mind to process at a much higher rate up here with this pressure that when you do regular conversation, it's down here. All that nightclub stuff that I talked to you about, the improv, this question game, talking to strangers, actively going to these events and putting yourself out there, the pressure is here. Then by the time you go out for fun or whatever, you're going to be operating here and you're going to be like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan out there because you're so used to putting yourself under extra pressure. That practice is really tough that by the time you come back to just normal existence, your everyday life, it's easy. Then when you make calls to customers, you're sharp. You ask good questions. When you deal with people out in the everyday world, you're going to be comfortable. You're going to be calm, cool, and collected. You're going to be able to make jokes. You're going to be able to process everything so much better. That's what elevates your wittiness, is that processing power of your mind, and your social mechanism has been so attuned up here that by the time you do regular stuff, it's easy. And that's the power of this stuff. Okay? So that's how to develop your wit from a very practical standpoint. There's so much more, right? And I can help you guys too. I do consultations, coaching, all that. I can help you as well. But in a nutshell, right? That's wit. Now let's move over to the next one, right? The next one is charm, right? What is charm? The power or quality of giving delight or arousing admiration. To delight greatly. Control or achieve by or as if by magic. I'll repeat the first one. The power or quality of giving delight or arousing admiration. Many of you admire me, so I know I have charm, right? What was the other one at the beginning? Giving delight. Giving delight. I know my videos are delightful. I know my presence for people is delightful. I know I have charm, but I've developed it. I wasn't always charming, right? Think about that. Giving delight or inspiring admiration. Think about that, right? If we want to talk about giving delight, imagine going out. How would you give delight to people? Wouldn't it be creating a social experience, being a compelling storyteller? Wouldn't it be derived around communication? It could also be the way that you look, the way that you present yourself, right? The experience that you create that night, right? If I'm hosting, an event, I can give delight. And for something to be delightful, it just has to be enjoyable to people. That's really what it is. So when I think of charm, I think of going out and creating experiences for people. And this is the key from a mental standpoint. I'm going to put their pleasure above mine. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to put their pleasure or experience and what they're going to give as a description of their perception of the evening or that moment above mine, at least for these moments or for a little bit. Why? Because then I'm going to focus on making sure that I'm doing what I'm doing to demonstrate that charm to people. Now, after a while, your natural beingness will create that for people. But in the beginning, that mental shift that I just gave you is huge. Because now, if temporarily I'm prioritizing other people's experience, I'm not going to worry about if I had a bad day or something like that. I'm going to be on my A game. I'm going to be such a compelling storyteller that people are going to be hanging on my every word. I'm going to be so unique in my expression and the way that I present myself to people that they will just be captivated by my presence, my speech, and everything about me. And that's how you inspire and you draw delightfulness out of the moment in these experiences, right? And the admiration comes naturally after that. Why? If I'm out there as an individual, many of you just admire me because of my ability to express myself, the freedom that I demonstrate in my movements, in my life, right? And the hard work and discipline that I've put in. That's just an extension of who you are. Now, and the key in this video is, how do you communicate that? Because many of you would be figures that would be admired by many people, but you don't view yourself that way, number one, right? You don't have the proper perspective on your life. But number two, and this is the most important part, you don't know how to communicate it. If you cannot communicate properly and at a higher level, no one's going to admire you or look at you for any of these things. So understand, as we're getting into the second point now, that you need to develop this communication skill. The wittiness is developed through your communication and the social apparatus, right? The charm is demonstrated through the social apparatus, right? And the last one's probably a little bit of both. But see this for what it is. We always thought people were born with wittiness or charm or charisma and all this other stuff. And some people naturally developed it because these mechanisms were put into place when they were kids. But if you haven't, this is a very systematic approach. And I'm just giving you basic surface level stuff. There's so much more that we can delve into, but this is just some of the beginner material that you can work with, but it has to become a focus for you. And again, if you're doing this and you're 18, 25, 35, 40, 45, it's not easy to do this stuff when we're adults. It's tough to put yourself out there like that, but for you to develop this stuff, you're going to have to do it. And in our era, it's even simpler. Why? You can do Zoom meetings, you can use social media. So much of these platforms and these video types of things help you, right? I'm not going to say that it substitutes the in real life stuff, right? But getting behind the camera or doing these Zoom meetings and forcing yourself to speak and talk is going to help you. I think in conjunction, doing the real life stuff and the video stuff is what took me socially and with all these things up very high, because I combine both at a very high level, and that's what you need to do too. So, think about creating the experience for other people, right? And the admiration is simply the way that you communicate things. It's not only how you communicate, but what are you communicating, right? When you tell a story, are you embodying and in that moment feeling the emotions that you're projecting to other people and portraying to them? Because if you are, it makes you that much more impactful as a speaker, and it will cause delight and inspire admiration in people because, wow, this dude can really tell a story. He's captivating. He's awe-inspiring. His language is rich and bountiful, right? His expression is unparalleled. See, all these types of words, that's why when we read these old texts of like Shakespeare and stuff and the wordsmiths, that's a word that I like to use, they're wordsmiths. They know how to really use words. That language enthralls us. It's charming to us. Whether we're, it doesn't matter where we're from, what socioeconomic level that we're at, that type of language and that, type of expression inspires all of us. And it's like, whoa, that's cool. The way thou hath, you know what I mean? All that old school, like almost medieval type of talk. We think that's cool and we enjoy it, but it's for a reason. It tickles our soul, right? Cool. Now, let's move on to the final one. And again, I'm reading these definitions. That way nothing is misconstrued and it's as clear as possible based on textbook definitions, all right? The last one we've talked about before a little bit, but I want to touch on it again today, and that's charisma. So the total three are wit, charm, and charisma. Charisma is compelling attractiveness or charm that can inspire devotion in others, right? A divinely conferred power or talent. Compelling attractiveness. What's attractiveness? When people hear the word attractiveness, they think sexual, which is wrong. Sexual is one branch of attractiveness, right? That's more like arousal and that kind of stuff. But attraction in general is having an affinity for something or someone, being drawn to them, right? Finding yourself fascinated by them, not being able to take your eyes off them, putting your attention towards them. That's attractiveness. So when you break down charisma like that, all it simply would be is, well, what tools and things do I need to implement to make myself attractive to people? And that's simple. Let's break some of them down. How you dress and present yourself, doing that in a unique way, definitely is charismatic. Your expression compared to the average person. Are you confidently in the room and standing there and smiling and having a good energy? That in itself, before you even open your mouth, is charismatic. The way that you tell a story and how you, again, communicate, the flow of your communication. If it, again, is entertaining to people, guess what? You're now charismatic, right? All these things are simply a display of particular attributes that you need to cultivate and develop within yourself. And I'll tell you this, if you work on charm and wit and some of the technical stuff like the question games and Toastmasters and all the stuff that I told you about, you naturally will develop charisma. Because what I found, and this is my own personal experience through my own journey, is the more I developed and grew as an individual, the more naturally I became charismatic and all these things just came out. Why? You have a lot of these things innately in you as a child, and as we become older and we go into adulthood, they start being suppressed by people through what we're taught, through school, through our parents, or whoever it is. And all these things get suppressed. So then everybody becomes a copy of everybody else. But the more you strip all that conditioning away, right? And all those blocks, suddenly you start blossoming as the individual. Because if we all shined as individuals, we all would have this type of power, because by default of being different and emphasizing our individuality, it would be interesting to people, because we wouldn't just be a copy of someone else that's a little bit taller, shorter, darker, man, woman, whatever it is. Because that's really what it comes down to. So as you work on charm and wit, your charisma will naturally come out. And that's what you want, because it's a combination of working on all these things. So the next time, right, as an exercise, the next time you see somebody who you would deem and define as charismatic, start looking at the traits that they're displaying in order for you to decode it and say, okay, why specifically am I believing that this person is charismatic right now? Oh, they carry themselves a certain way. Okay, what is it about how they carry themselves? Oh, they're very confident, right? They're very open. Their body language is XYZ, right? Their speech is a little bit louder compared to everybody else, right? And you start noting all these details, and very quickly you create the list of what it is to be charismatic. Because most of these things that I described today, even if you didn't know the textbook definition of them, you could point them out and say, well, that person is pretty witty. Oh, that person has charm. That person's charismatic, right? So if we naturally can identify those things in people, generally speaking, all you need to do is sit back now and observe. Not be just enthralled, but sit back and observe and say, okay, what are they demonstrating to be witty or full of charm or charismatic? And then you create this list. Now, the reason I said that this can make you millions is, imagine if you're a salesperson watching this and you have charisma, charm, and wit. Compare yourself to the average salesperson. You will mop the floor with them. If you just run a business, right? Imagine the amount of connections that you can make with people and even your customers by having charisma, charm, and wit. And it just naturally exudes from you. You could be a high schooler watching this. Imagine how you're going to be received by the faculty and your friends and just the general populace in your school if you have charisma, charm, and wit. Think about the opportunities that are present to you. You think you're going to hesitate to go after what you want if you have charisma, charm, and wit? Hell no. How do you think people in the world is going to respond to you if you naturally glean charisma, charm, and wit? How do you think your family is going to feel about you? Your spouse, your kids, the people in your community, your neighbors, and your neighborhood, right? When we start really codifying this thing and saying, let's look, if we had these qualities, what would happen? You would have a completely different life if you had these qualities and you developed them. But that's the key, y'all. And I want to wrap it up like this. You have to develop this shit. When I started this journey at, my late 20s, 28, 29, it's been like 11 years now that I've really been working on this stuff. It was tough. It was tough because I had to put myself in a position where I had to set my ego aside and humble myself and say, hey man, I'm starting from square one with this already as a grown man, basically. But that's okay, because I see the prize at the end of this journey in this path. And it's worth it to me. And I can tell you right now on this side, y'all, that juice is worth the squeeze. It is excellent. I'm in a position where I have complete control. I can meet people if I want. If I want to, approach women, it's not a problem, right? So many things are accessible to me. It's cool. It's made me a lot more calm, cool, collected, confident, right? I just exude a certain aura and energy, and it's amazing. You can do the same, but you're going to have to earn it if you're willing to learn wit, charm, and charisma. Now, those are just some basics, right? If you guys need help, I do one-on-one Zoom consultations. I also do coaching at many levels. I also have courses as well. All the information is on my website. If you guys are here at the end and you want some free resources, right? I've been giving away scripts for the business stuff and the salespeople, stuff for real estate agents. I'm giving away a ton of stuff. You can just go directly to my website to get on my email list as well. But if you do want something specifically, just comment free, and then I'll send you a link and you can sign up there and get whatever free bonus we have to offer. Will I create something on charisma, charm, and wit? Probably, and I'll give that away for free. But for now, we'll keep it here at this video. Anything else that you need, I'm here to help. Just contact me on my website, and we'll see you on the next video. Be sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe. Appreciate all the support, right? Do what you can to help push this thing and hopefully flip the algorithm back in our favor. All right, peace.